Happy Chanukah, everyone. That was good. How we doing? Move it in a little. Okay. Well, happy Chanukah, everyone. Good evening. Welcome. Sitting by the flames of the menorah. And it's a great opportunity to talk about Chanukah, the menorah, and a little bit about the beauty of this holiday. It's truly important to know what this holiday is about. Otherwise, the commercialism takes over. And if you know anything about me, it's that I talk about how we have to refine our consumption, that we have to learn how to make even our consumption a contribution. And you can really see that in the message of the menorah. But unfortunately, for the commercial value aspect, we have to reiterate the message and say it again and say it again. So happy Hanukkah, everyone. It's really a joyous holiday. It's a holiday where we talk about perseverance, but in the joyous form. And us here at Zehut, or Jewish Learning Institute, or Chabad of North Beach, we had an interesting week where our menorah was stolen from Washington Square Park. We were quite blown away. Everybody said, "When did you notice that it was missing?" I said, well, I kind of, put it up, and we had a little ceremony of getting it started at the park a couple of weeks ago. And on and off, I checked in, everything's going well, and then we came to do our lighting on Sunday at the park. And they're like, "Rabbi, I didn't see the menorah there." I'm like, well, you probably missed it. It was in another corner this year. We showed up, and sure enough, there was no menorah. So that was really exciting. And more importantly, what's exciting here is that all it did was highlight the message of Hanukkah even more. I'm thinking the message of Hanukkah, at the end of the day, if you had to sum it up with your elevator pitch, Hanukkah is about, we celebrate good overcoming evil. But, sometimes that's too grand. Sometimes good overcoming evil is like so big, it doesn't fit into our daily narrative. But Hanukkah is a daily narrative. It's a daily miracle. It's something that we're supposed to take with us all year. So to sum up Hanukkah, it's not just good overcoming evil, it's that light. In other words, being able to confront reality in its highest and purest form is something that you can do no matter what the situation is. So even though our menorah was taken, we got together, we did a lighting in the park, and the best part about this was I wasn't even here. This was all my wife, so I need to publicly thank her for really handling it like a champ and picking up the slack like nobody else can and really just bringing the light. And I hope that this type of story really inspires me. It's not just a regular Hanukkah anymore. It's one where we really see ourselves in the message of light. And I decided, therefore, tonight we got to talk about light and how light functions as a metaphor for self. And instead of just talking about the menorah in general terms, we have to talk about the light in personal, relative forms that we can really take this holiday and go home with it. In that sense, really bring it home with us to the rest of the year. So that's what I want to talk about tonight. And every time I think about Hanukkah, I think about the great quality of the holiday is on the backdrop of physical perseverance. A great war, the Maccabees, and that's not what we celebrate. Simple as that. It's a great war. It's not what we celebrate. We celebrate the light. It's also important to note that the Jewish people as a whole, for thousands of years, have inspired nothing but light. It's true we have challenges, and it's true when a Jewish person does something that people don't like, it gets spread far and wide. But look at the world, and can you imagine it without being Jewish? A 0.2% of the population affecting the daily value of life all over the world. To me, you can find all of this in the menorah, and that's what I'd like to talk about tonight. The message of the light, of the message of the menorah, and no more appropriate than the menorah right here with us. Over here you have Kaylee's menorah, and Zalman's and Mendel's, and I believe Sarah's, that's round 2, who will do it happen again. Here's my menorah. I got that menorah when I was studying in Jerusalem. After I got married, I was there with my wife for 10 months, and we met somebody who had a pawn shop, and he calls me out I was walking around, he's like, "Hey, come here, you need a menorah?" I was like, "All right, sure, I'm in the market, And he said, "This is salvage from pre-World War II, and it's looking for a good home. His problem was he misinterpreted the moment. It was a month before Hanukkah, so I had a full month to negotiate down the price, so it was perfect. Anyways, I'm very proud to have this menorah. Every year I light it, and I feel like I'm touching a part of the menorah's history. And so here we have it. All right, so there are three major things that just about everybody knows about Hanukkah, but doesn't realize that how significant of this is. And one is that everybody knows that every day you add a candle or add a light. And that day 1 is 1, day 2 is 2. But that's not such a simple phenomenon. Where did we get this idea from that every day you add a light? After all, you could just light a candle if we're representing that for 8 days that the candle lit, or that the menorah's oil was there for 8 days was the miracle. And every day we should light something for 8 days, or light a full candelabra for 8 days, one like the one in the temple. So why do we add one each night? Where did that come from? So in the Talmud, there's actually 3 opinions about how the menorah should be done. Opinion number 1 is you just light a candle. Opinion number 2 is you light the whole menorah. And opinion number 3 varies in 2 different forms. One is to light each night another one, and one is to light each one less. Start with 8, move 7. And of course the one we do is the one everybody knows, where we add one each night. And then there's another discussion that usually in a Jewish household, one person makes kiddush and everybody listens. The mom lights Shabbat candles and everybody watches. But today, when it comes to lighting the menorah, everyone lights the menorah. So these are things everyone knows, but after all, there was quite the discussion of how we got there. So I want to talk about that point and why that point is significant. And it's not just everybody knows it, but it has a message everybody should know as well. The second part about Hanukkah that sticks out is the message of oil. It's true most people light with candles for convenience, but in reality the message with oil, you see we have oil over here. And a big part of the oil, only the shamas, the one I use as the lead lamp, I think with oil would be a little challenging, but we try to use oil. And so what is it about oil that is important to this message, especially because this goes back to the original menorah that was with oil. The miracle happens with oil. So what is it about oil? It's not just we know that there's oil involved. What is it? And you may not know this, but that's why we eat donuts on Hanukkah, because it's oily, or latkes, because it's fried in oil. So our holiday of fried food is once again connected to oil, the good non-hydrogenated stuff, to say the least. And then the third element that I mentioned, but that I think is no less to really bring out to everybody, is that everybody lights the menorah. There's no age limit. There's no gaps for who lights the menorah. Everybody who's alive can light a menorah. And that's pretty impressive, to say the least. So I feel like we need to break down these 3 widely accepted things about Hanukkah. There are many more things about Hanukkah, but to me these were the top 3 that I could really go about. Of course, we could talk about the dreidel, and we could talk about other things, but I just want to focus on really, I think, the most widely known things about Hanukkah. That each day we add a candle, and that the miracle was oil that lasted 8 days, and that everyone lights the menorah. All right, ready to go? One of the things about Hanukkah, you guys ready? We're good? All right. So one of the things about Hanukkah is that we model it after the temple's menorah, and yet the temple hasn't been around in quite some time, right? And the miracle itself is almost a little over 2,400 years ago. So the menorah that lit it, that's not what we light on. That's not what we commemorate. Nachmanides goes as far as saying that menorah extinguished, unfortunately and tragically, but our menorahs go lit on forever. So it's pretty fascinating that we have our own type of menorah that we're lighting. Yes, it's symbolic of the one in the temple, but truthfully, it's not about the temple one as much as it's our menorah, our job, and trying to highlight our role in this miracle. This miracle of Hanukkah, what's fascinating to me is you have in Jewish holidays, you have the holidays of high holidays, Rosh Hashanah, Yom Kippur. You have the 3 main holidays, the pilgrimage holidays as they're known, the pilgrimage holidays as they're known, Sukkot, Pesach, and Shavuot. And in those 5 holidays, those are the biblical holidays. Now it's true you have ideas about other holidays in the Torah, but the ones that are inspired by people are Hanukkah and Purim. So it's worth at least noting that when we do the Hanukkah holiday, on top of all that we just said, it's also a human-inspired holiday. So that means that the inspiration of this holiday has to come from you. You're human, right? So you got to really be a part of this holiday. It has to be something that happens for you on a yearly basis. Otherwise, guess what? You'll fall back in that commercial element and start thinking it's Valentine's Day instead of every day to love the person in your life. You know, like these things are important. Instead of Mother's Day, it should be every day I love my parents. So this is not bad to have a highlight moment. On the contrary, we're very into highlighting important moments, but we still have to recognize that the value is the one that you bring to it on a daily level, meaning what you take from it. So if we're at the peak moment of learning the value of Hanukkah, it's there for you to bring it, you to internalize it, and then for it to add value to your everyday. So that's what we're going to talk about, these 3 ideas. All right. The last 24 hours, every single newscast in the city has been calling to ask us about the stolen menorah, and I've been on the road. I had to go to Southern California and get my boys. I was stuck in traffic, the holiday traffic. We were on the road for over 10 hours, and it was awesome. And my phone didn't work at all, which was also awesome. So it was left to my wife to have to field all the questions. And last night I came back late, and after everything and all the fanfare, and we sat down, you know, we're having a little menorah and tea, and relaxed. And she says, you know, Parrots, I'm so happy that you're not a news guy, that you don't sit and read and watch the news all the time. And it has its drawbacks, but the point is that I don't like feeding into negativity all the time. I just don't like that every second story is negative. So maybe I should know a little more news, but the truth is almost everybody I meet says, Rabbi, did you hear what happened? And I usually get all the news anyways. And then I get a lot of fake news out there. I get all the good stuff. So my wife was talking about how all the newscasters constantly wanted to ask, you know, how do we feel about the menorah being stolen? And she, you know, triumphantly kept to the message of, this is not about losing something, it's about the message of the menorah, which now you're giving me an opportunity to say to the larger audience. In other words, the menorah itself has a large story to tell, and it's going to find a way to tell it. And I thought, that's an amazing metaphor for what I want to talk about tonight. You have an amazing story to tell, and life is going to find a way to squeeze it out of you. Understand that challenges, difficulties, even good things, everything is your soul speaking to get more out of you. You're born with maximum capacity to give light to this world. So how do we make sure we're giving that light? How do we know how much light we have to give? How do we know that we're leaving goodness out there, that we can still do more? So maybe tonight's messages will resonate with you a little bit. So step one, we said every night you have to add a candle. So when we talk about potential, a person having potential, we mean that when you're born, you have an amazing amount of potential. You could be anything. You could do anything. Obviously, circumstances, family, etc. play a major role in that. But your potential is there. And to a certain degree, no matter what family, no matter what situation you're born in, you very much have potential that still needs to be uncovered, that still needs to be produced. There are great talents, but it's raw. They're called rookies, you know, in professional sports, or they're new at it and they're just getting their feet wet or their beak wet. It just takes time sometimes to cultivate that potential. So the first message that everyone knows of Hanukkah, every night you add one, is the simplest but most important message of all. Every day you have to think about your potential and how to make it greater and uncover it more. Let's not worry too much about ego over here, okay? If you really are trying to be a better person, your potential is not going to be related to how do I make more money or how do I do better at work. That's not what we're talking about. We're talking about potential as a human being. Do I love well? Am I compassionate? Do I empathize? Am I there for people? Am I somebody that people can lean on? Or am I somebody that inspires others? Take a harsh look at yourself and you'll realize the only answer is every day you got to do a little more than the day before if you're going to become that type of person. It's not something that turns on like a switch. It is something that every day. So you want to know where Miriam and I get I think it's authentic. And, well, I know it's authentic, but I think it comes across authentic for my wife to stand there and say the message isn't of the stolen menorah, the message is of the menorah. It's because we invest every day into figuring out how to make things better. I should really reiterate, she definitely invests every day. But I meet people all the time that do this, and we need more people to do this. It has to become a daily routine. You wake up in the morning, and you acknowledge yourself. You could do the Moda Ani prayer that we've spoken about in the past. You think about, what am I doing to add more? And I think when you think about that, you're supposed to listen to the tale of the lights. You're supposed to look at the menorah, spend a few minutes staring at it, looking at it, and meditating on it. Why did I add one tonight? Well, I added one because I have to add in light. If you have the same light, it just stays a certain stagnant space. But a human being only has a limited time. So any form of stagnancy in life is really holding back, is a time you're not uncovering potential. So first message of the first idea is to always add, is to every day be able to dig a little deeper and to find a little more about your potential and uncover a little more of your potential. And make sure that this is happening in an environment that you can produce good things. If it's an environment of work, well, that's money related. And if it's money related, it's good, but that shouldn't be the stimuli. That should be a result of other places that is adding goodness to your life. The second thing we said was that the message here is through the oil. It's all about the oil. How are we doing out there? Everybody's good? Right? Feel free to comment as always, The next message is about the oil. And the oil is very interesting to me because even though we use candles a lot, the idea of oil is something that you have to produce. You have to crush olives to get oil. You have to squeeze it. I don't like the term crushing because that's to get all out of it. And maybe unfortunately there's some crushing in life that is trying to get the most out of you. But the metaphor to me is so obvious that anything good comes with a form of crushing or squeezing, or let's use a very light word, pressure. Pressure. You don't need crushing. A little bit of pressure changes everything. And what do you think? You think pressure just happens in a vacuum? It does not. If you go to work, you do your thing quietly, you go home, you live your life, you could be lonely, you could be happy, but another thing you're not doing is you're not surrounding yourself with light as well. You don't just crush one olive for oil, you crush many together. You don't just crush one grape, you crush many. It's not because you need a lot, but because the best way for these things to produce is through other people, is through other grapes, through other olives. That's the best way. You don't want metal to crush it out and to come through that, or even ceramic from one little thing. You want it to be many together. Today's coffee, they don't want you to have grinders anymore. You need a burr, right? So it should just go in between, and the beans themselves, are making it happen. And so definitely with olives, you're getting great olives. The pressure applied is one that produces light. We have to start seeing the message of the menorah as it's also pressure. It's not just flower of light and beauty. I once heard an idea that anxiety is language of the soul. And I was thinking about that today. Anxiety of the soul anxiety is the language of the soul. Anxiety is it's crippling people out there. In a world that, thank God, so many people that don't have to worry about survival and their food every day, what's all the anxiety about? I think anxiety is the language of the soul. I love that line. It's a Hasidic line because it says that the soul has unbelievable amounts of potential. And when it's not being utilized, it's asking for something. It starts feeling anxious. That's its language. It's calling out to you and it's saying, be more soulful. Invest more in soul. Illuminate. The soul at the end of the day is an olive. And for it to come out, it needs to produce oil. It needs to get out there. And the pressure is what produces that. We have to see our anxieties and our difficulties and our challenges and our pressures as actually trying to draw our olive oil out of us, our wine out of us. It's trying to bring it all forward. And this may be a little more of a sincere message, but then again, you need a message of the menorah that's not all flowers and beauty. So it's very important to be able to look at this as something that can really, really inspire. Another thing I like to talk about with people is, bad habits come on their own. You don't need to work on a bad habit. It comes. Good habits, though, take effort. You don't naturally get a bunch of good habits. Maybe as a child, your parents are around trying to give you good opportunities, but as soon as they go, you go to college, you stop doing your laundry. You know what I mean? Good habits take development. And development takes a certain amount of pressure to make sure you're living up to your developmental potential. And another message of the menorah is live up to your potential. There's so much light to give. You ever see a light? You know how many lights you could light with one candle? Unlimited, infinity. It never loses any power. When you are drawing from the soul, you have unlimited amounts. People are worried. Maybe I tapped out. Maybe I've done all I could do. I understand that. We're not looking for you to die on the job. However, anxiety and pressure, this is the soul asking for more attention. It needs nourishment. It needs its oil to come out. And that is message number 2. Message number 3, how are we doing? Any questions to go? We're good? Not that good, huh? It must be the singing. They're still singing the tune in their head.
Yeah, I think
right?
I think there's some connectivity
issues.
Yeah. Sorry.
It's been the whole time?
No. Sporadic.
Sporadic.
Just now.
Yeah.
But there's many lights.
There's many lights. Hold on a second. Let's see. I can't believe that was off. Okay. Here we go. Yeah. So that was 2. And the third one is, is everyone lights. We know that everybody lights the menorah. That's no small feat, especially with rituals and Judaism and male and female. And yeah, we may have answers for everything, but here is one that we don't have any questions. Everyone lights. And we don't just light the menorah, we're lighting it for 2,400 years. We're doing this for a long time. And that tells you that you have troubles, you have struggles, but we've all had them, and everyone's had them for a long time. Even if you say mine are stronger than everyone else's, come on, agree, at least each generation there's been somebody who's had those problems too. The menorah messages is that it keeps on going. Every year you have the opportunity to truly tap in and make this happen. But it takes the third step. Everyone lights means you got to be proactive. It means that you got to be surrounded by other lights as well. You got to be connected to all the candles. It's not just everyone lights. Everybody lights a whole menorah and everybody adds every day. It's not just everybody lights one candle, like we said there was an opinion, or everybody lights a whole candelabra. Everybody every day adds. It's a collective issue. If you don't see it and you think your problems are much worse than everybody else's, I tell you what you should do. You should start looking for stronger lights to live around. If you can't find friends with light, find mentors. Surround yourself with people of light. And watch, you're not just going to be inspired by them, your light's going to start shining. That's the nature of light. That's the nature of fire. So it's truly important to know that these 3 messages aren't just ideas that we're putting together. These are, simply put, a standard for what Chanukah is telling us. The menorah changes the standard of holidays. It says the message is within every element of the ritual. You have 8 days of lighting. 7 days is really the miracle, by the way. Remember, they had enough oil for 1 day and it lasted 8 days. So really only 7 days is the miracle. So why 8 is the number? Because 8 represents the full embodiment of it. Being able to find your inner oil, even for 1 day, that's a miracle too. Being able to tap into day 1, that's just as big as a miracle as it lasting 8 days. We can't let go of that. So many of us, we can't find that first day. So of course day 1 was a miracle. It wasn't just the next 7 days. And they knew this 2,400 years ago. Finding yourself isn't exactly a walk in the park. But the message of Chanukah is you're there. There is a you that is truly amazing, is a candelabra, is part of the menorah experience. And once it gets lit, it can continue not only being alive and on fire, but it continue giving to others as well. So I wish you so much success this coming year in being able to integrate these 3 messages into your Hanukkah life. And there are so many more messages of Hanukkah that I'd love to add to you. Is there any questions, or are we just absorbing this material tonight? I'm here for you guys. I'm here, whatever it takes. We'll talk about it. We're going to find every ounce of negativity and showcase how there's positive light to draw from it.
Why then don't light menorah like all the way? All the time.
All year round, right?
Yeah.
Well, it's a wonderful question. If we were all holding there with you of how come we don't light the menorah every day, the message of the menorah should be there with you every day. But if you do something for a full week, and let alone 8 days for one more day, you're blessed to really bring it with you all the time. If you start consciously adding good habits, eventually even your subconscious starts acting that way. People, it's an interesting question, how come we don't light every day? If you can only accomplish something by doing something, like lighting the menorah every day is the only way I'm going to do it, then you're handicapped to the menorah. The menorah also sets you free. Take in the message of the menorah for 8 days and watch it light your year, and then a year later we get right back to it, just in case to reinforce. There's this, let me tell you a little story. There's a mystical tale. So the Baal Shem Tov, the first Hasidic master, I don't know, they talk in epic terms of the Baal Shem Tov. The stories are made of magic. He was a lover of light. He only lit the menorah for 8 days, but wherever he went, he liked lots of candles everywhere. He loved light. And one time he comes into a home, and there was only one candle, and he says, it was all you could find was one candle to light. And they said, well, that's all we had. He said, well, then bring in the icicles from outside. So they brought in the icicles from outside and lit the icicles. That's the story. I think that story is magic, because you light stuff, but sometimes you don't realize that everything has the potential to be lit. Everything has the potential to ferment. Everything has the potential to emit a deeper essence. And the message of the menorah in the streets and the menorah in your homes, facing the windows outdoors, and inviting people to take part of the holiday is not one of off work, but one of on self. Being able to find your real self, your deep self, and using that light to truly channel it and emit it to the whole world around you.
I have one more thing.
Okay,
So
and while he's at, you want to check if anybody asked any questions?
Yeah, I'm checking on my phone.
Okay, go for it.
So it seems that there is like a message out there, right? The menorah in the window saying like, find the light within yourself, or find the light in this menorah, or symbolizing of this menorah. That doesn't tell you like where to find it or how to find it, right? Like just by coming to the person who stays next to menorah doesn't really give you an answer, right?
Well, if you feel like we need more practicality in accentuating these ideas, yeah, I was thinking about that, and I was thinking that there have to be some practical things. Let's say if somebody's really not feeling it.
Yeah.
Well, what type of mentorship do you have outside of work?
Wouldn't be the
Outside of work,
like
in San Francisco, I want to give you. It's far out there. People are like, oh, maybe people don't do this, but we have a lot of seniors or a lot of people 75 and older, 80 and older, that don't have communication with younger people. Just spending time with people who have lived through things and have been to places is inspirational.
Yeah.
We have to surround ourselves with more light, with more people of light and experience and goodness. We have to volunteer more. We have to make ourselves available more. We definitely do it when there's tragedy. I'm not knocking anyone. People really step up. Somebody already donated a new menorah. Is that amazing?
Yeah,
it's amazing.
I was thinking more like making this 8 days.
And we have a big menorah lighting on Wednesday night in Ghirardelli Square. The show continues, but it comes down to what environment do you put yourself in? Who are the people you're surrounding in? Have you added new people in your life to bring light to you? Have you taken the role of a mentor, or have you taken a mentor upon yourself, non-work related? People have to stop defining their existence through their work, because that is related to their consumption, and it's very hard to separate that from the light that you are.
That's what I was saying, like I think the practical
that infuses that into the workplace. It can't be generated within the workplace, because that itself has a cynical value. But if you are working on that outside, and then you're bringing it to your mission at work, and you're bringing it to your workplace, that'll happen. It doesn't go the other way. It starts from you bringing it to your mission at your workplace, and that's like that. I hope that is in. Even if you have a great work environment that's a nonprofit and it does beautiful things, you still need to cultivate that personal space that you're growing the potential of your light, so that you bring it to what you're doing and you bring it to your daily values. Yeah.
Okay. So you have a follow-up question. What do you think about VR and increased connections?
About what?
VR and increased
Oh,
connections.
virtual reality and increased
Yes.
connections. Oh, I love San Francisco. Thanks, Tim. I think that to think that technology where we're at today is where it's at, or it's going to be much greater in the abstract form in the future, is a difficult approach. The approach has to be, today we have amazing things around us, and let me phrase the question this way. Somebody mentioned to me earlier today, they're like, I met this person, and he said a key to his success is that he doesn't have a smartphone. I said, everybody goes, very interesting. He doesn't have a smartphone. He has everything through the computer. And that way, it's isolated to those moments. Terrific. So they thought I would give an affirmative. Like, sure, that's great. I was like, I got to be honest with you, kind of rubs me the wrong way. Why? Because within technology is the ultimate capacity to connect and to grow and to add to this world. But every person needs to have disciplines prior to using technology. You have to have a mission and a discipline for how you use your technology. If you don't use your technology without recognizing why you're using it, you're going to end up using it in forms that don't always work to the way it's supposed to work. So many people today worry about security, or they say, I don't have to worry because I have nothing to hide. None of that really hits the heart of the issue. The heart of the issue is, are you consciously using technology, or are you just floating with the technology and it's using you? When you're consciously using it, you have an awareness of all the things you're using. When you have that awareness, you can use all the incredible tools around you to most amazing ways possible. But if you don't have a mission and an awareness of what you're using it for, that's when it really starts taking you over and it's using you that way.
That's a point about Menorah.
That is the menorah right there. That is really what we're here. We're lighting in order to come with a mission of what we're lighting for, what it's all about. Otherwise, what does it become? The commercial valued holiday. It's for the kids. And that's beautiful too, but that's not what its inherent design is about.
So Menorah itself is not worth nothing, but
Chaim. It's worth
the symbol,
everything, but it's you.
But the symbol itself worth everything.
Happy Hanukkah, everyone. I look forward to seeing you at Ghirardelli Square tomorrow night.